Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and boy, do we have some football to talk about today. It's Monday, which means yesterday was Sunday, so there's plenty of football to talk about, and that's just what we're going to do. I'm going to give you some overreactions from yesterday's action, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow. So, why don't we sit back, relax, enjoy the show, sip our coffee, all that fun stuff. Things first, before we get into my overreactions of the weekend, I want to go ahead and talk about the injuries that happened, as I'm sure you're dying to know what to do, who got injured, all that fun stuff. And I'm, of course, just going to keep it with the more fantasy relevant players. That's what you guys really care about. Lots of defensive injuries this week that were really sad. But for offense, Jonathan Mingo suffered a concussion. Hopefully he'll be back in a couple weeks. He was starting to get a pretty decent usage on this Panthers offense. Mike Williams has basically, he hurt his knee. We don't know what knee injury it is specifically, but it is feared to be very serious. In fact, this knee injury is feared to be season ending for Mike Williams. Like clockwork, the man gets hurt again. If you've got Mike Williams, I mean, you're not going to get anything for him. People already hated trying to put him into their lineup. Unfortunately, he was off to a more consistent start this season, so it does suck to see as the Chargers offense was really clicking. Justin Herbert was finally back, but it is what it is. So if this injury is season ending, look for Josh Palmer to step up. Josh Palmer did score a touchdown last week. It's going to look to continue to be that way as Quentin Johnston still has not been utilized, still hasn't even reached a 40% snap share. If Quentin Johnston is to happen, it would start to happen now. The whole philosophy behind Quentin Johnston is that when Mike Williams or Keenan Allen got hurt, he would be able to step up. But it's looking like Joshua Palmer is not letting him kind of leapfrog him. So just continue to watch that. If Quentin Johnston continues to see a small snap share, it's over, and the Podfather was right. Next up, Derek Carr injured his shoulder. This one is not feared to be season ending. However, it is feared to be serious. Look for Derek Carr to at least land on short-term IR. We don't know for sure yet, but it's still not looking good. And I would expect at least a few weeks to be missed. Jameis Winston is good for fantasy football, bad for the Saints. They ended up losing the game against the Packers. Jordan Love puts on a massive comeback. It's awesome. We'll talk about that later in a bit. But Jameis Winston, going to be good for fantasy football. In your Superflex leagues, if he's available, you can definitely get him. And like your Scott Fish Bowls, all that fun stuff, you can definitely pick up Jameis Winston. He will be good for fantasy. The guy slings it. And there's some great receivers on that team. Rashid Shaheed continue to be a playmaker. Chris Olave continuing to get 100 yards and making spectacular catches. So Jameis Winston definitely worth picking up in your Superflex leagues and probably even worth starting. And finally, Gus Edwards picked up a concussion. Not much to say here. Melvin Gordon looked okay. We'll talk about that in a minute. But really, I mean, the running back you want on the Ravens is Lamar Jackson. They might be making a move. I don't really know. It's just a concussion, so it's probably only 1 week or so. But just something to keep your eye on with Gus Edwards as he has become the lead back with Justice Hill being injured as well. So those are all kind of the big injuries and the takeaways from those. Hopefully you weren't affected. If you were, I think that you'll be fine. None of these guys are, season ruining type injuries for your fantasy football team, but they still, of course, suck. You never want to see that stuff. Before we get into the takeaways, let me go ahead and check the chat here. Welcome in, everyone. Glad to be spending my morning with you yet again. Go Jin asks, do you spend 50+% fab on Josh Palmer? I would not say 50%. I think that's going to be a little bit too much. With wide receivers, they just often show up. And unless you really need a wide receiver, I can't justify spending that much fab on one. And Josh Palmer, while probably going to have a decent floor, still doesn't have the most massive ceiling, especially while Keenan Allen is still out there. Now, if Keenan Allen got hurt and Mike Williams got hurt in this game, then I'd be saying, yeah, you might as well use a lot of fab. So it depends how you view the rest of these Chargers wide receivers, but I would not be spending that much fab on Josh Palmer. And continue to ask your questions, guys. I will be getting to them at the back of the show. All right, let's talk about it. Week 3 was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, lots of good games, lots of good action, lots of good takeaways from this. But first, we need to hear from the Podfather.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free, and one of our key missions is to make as much statistics and information and deep analysis available on playerprofiler.com for free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In package to continue to make all this possible. If you can't do All In, that's okay. We have a draft kit. Or you can just subscribe to the player rankings. Those now include tight end premium FFPC ranks, our brand new data analysis package will blow your hair back. And of course, there's our Dynasty Deluxe and our DFS Dominator. Take a moment, check out our premium services to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.
All right. Go check out Player Profiler. You guys already know it. Best site in the business. Best website in the business. We have some overreactions for you. Let's get on into it. My first overreaction from this, and guys, buckle up. I have 35 overreactions from yesterday's action. Hopefully we can get through them pretty quickly. A.J. Dillon. Drop him. I don't even care. Just drop him. If you had A.J. Dillon, what you wanted him for has already happened the past 2 weeks. You wanted A.J. Dillon in case Aaron Jones went down. But what has A.J. Dillon done so far? 39 carries, 107 yards, and 0 touchdowns, and also losing touches to Emmanuel Wilson and something Patrick. I don't even know his first name. So A.J. Dillon, unfortunately, not the smash start with Aaron Jones out that many expected to be. And to be completely honest, if he can't do it now against some decent defenses, then I don't really see him doing it at all this season. I would just drop him, to be honest. I don't think you're going to get that big of a return unless it's a dynasty league. No one's paying up for him in redraft. Just move on. Honestly, there's so much more upside out there on the waiver wire. And speaking of upside that was out there on the waiver wire, Devon Achane is a league winner. What does he do in his first true start? Yes, he played last week, but what does he do in his first true action without a snap count, being totally let loose? 233 yards and 4 touchdowns. 200 rushing yards, 200 rushing yards, 30 receiving yards, and two touchdowns in each category. 2 receiving, 2 rushing touchdowns. Absolutely phenomenal performance, and that's just the beginning. The guy showed his explosiveness, and he showed that he can take hits, and he showed that he can run between the tackles. This guy is a true NFL running back and will be winning leagues. If you listened to me any point this offseason, you knew that I had been touting him. You probably already had him on your roster, but if you didn't, 100% fab. You have to. Everything is going to Devon Achane. League winner. Desmond Ridder is not it. He's just not it. And I'm sorry, I have to apologize here. I really thought he could do it, but he's just not the answer. He is simply not the answer, unfortunately. Is he a decent game manager? Yes. He's starting to solidify himself as a guy that would be a decent backup. However, there is just no ceiling to his play. He finishes the day 21 of 38, 200 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. The Falcons only score 6 points. And on top of that, Desmond Ridder also only had 2 carries for 3 yards after a week where he actually started using his legs for some first downs and carries. You thought that he would continue that momentum. He was throwing it well last week as well, and you thought that he would continue it, but no. It's just not there. Arthur Smith is not really letting him sling it at all, so maybe that's part of it. But I honestly just think that not only does Arthur Smith not trust him, Desmond Ridder doesn't trust himself either. He's not taking shots. It's too dink and dunk, which is, what the Falcons' offense's bread and butter is, but you need a little bit more ceiling here. So unless they unleash Desmond Ridder and actually let him take some shots, he's just not it. And I do not see him doing that, unfortunately. So I'm finally saying it. Start trading for Taylor Heinicke. Next takeaway, it is time to buy low on Jahmyr Gibbs. Yesterday, Jahmyr Gibbs had 17 carries. And luckily for us fantasy managers that don't own Jahmyr Gibbs, he only had 80 yards. and he also only had 1 reception for 7 yards. And this comes in a game where rookie Sam Laporta truly broke out. So the Jahmyr Gibbs market, after a disappointing first 2 weeks, after only being utilized as a receiver, finally gets a game where he's utilized as a running back, but then not a receiver. So I think a lot of managers out there are starting to be a little bit upset with Jahmyr Gibbs' production. And so I think that this is the perfect buy window. Yes, he's still expensive, but to see him take 17 carries is extremely encouraging. Now we need to have him get the carries and the receptions. And part of this is game script. The Lions were ahead on the Falcons the entire game, and so Jahmyr Gibbs didn't need to get receptions at all. So to see him just get that workload in general is extremely encouraging. Go buy low on Jahmyr Gibbs. You'll be happy you did it. The Los Angeles Chargers, they need to sign Leonard Fournette. They need another running back. Joshua Kelce, unfortunately, is not it. And again, I will apologize here. I said he was one of the better handcuffs to have. In fact, I said he was the best handcuff to roster heading into the season. And we saw him break out in week 1, and it looked awesome. I was kind of victory lapping. But what has he done in the games without Austin Eckler? Well, 24 carries for 51 yards and 0 touchdowns. So I don't know if it's I need Austin Eckler out there to be a better running back type situation where just the lanes are open. I don't know what it is, but without Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelce has looked terrible, absolutely terrible. And so the Chargers need to go sign Leonard Fournette. That would be huge for them. He gives more of a skill set than Joshua Kelce, a better pure runner than Joshua Kelce, can catch passes similar to Eckler. And with the way this offense is looking right now, they need some help, especially with Mike Williams looking to be out for the season. And speaking of Mike Williams, like I said a little bit earlier, go ahead and get Josh Palmer. And I would honestly try to buy low on Quentin Johnston as well. Can Quentin Johnston still continue to suck? Yes. Can Quentin Johnston's value completely plummet from this point? Yes. However, there's still some ceiling there. There's still a little bit of hope. And I think that it's time, one last time, to try to buy. Because if this isn't it, then it's not going to happen. But if it does happen, then he's not even going to be obtainable anymore. And so I'm going to try to get Quentin Johnston. Am I paying up for him? No. But this is when the opportunity will come now that Mike Williams is out. And so since he hasn't been utilized at all, I would try to get him. And yes, get Josh Palmer as well. My other big overreaction is that this game against the Chargers will go down as Alexander Mattison's best game of the entire season. Cam Akers will be coming out next week for the Vikings, and Mattison did not turn the ball over. He had a fumble that should have been a fumble that they didn't call a fumble, so he was saved there, and he finished the day with 93 rush yards and 32 reception yards. That is a decent performance for Alexander Mattison, and unfortunately for him, that'll go down as the best performance of the year. So I would go ahead and sell Alexander Mattison on the low. I think that this performance might encourage a little bit of people that need running backs to pay up for him. I'm not even asking for a lot. I might see if you could get Cam Akers plus for Alexander Mattison and just move on, because that is going to be, this is his ceiling now, calling it. Overreaction number 8 is that Romeo Doubs is just simply good at football. He finishes the day with 5 receptions off of 12 targets. It's a lot of targets. 73 yards and a touchdown. He had 2 touchdowns in week 1. And with Christian Watson out, has stepped up pretty admirably against cornerback ones, except for against the Falcons, but that's A.J. Terrell. He's a really good corner. It allowed Jaden Reed to open up. Is Doubs great at football? No, but he's good at football. It is what it is. Romeo Doubs is just simply good at football. And Jordan Love has it. He had a terrible first 3 quarters, but when the game was on the line, when it truly mattered, he led the Packers into a comeback against the Saints, down 17 points, finishing the day with 259 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and also 39 rush yards and a touchdown to lead the come-behind win 18-17 in the fourth quarter. That's the type of performance that keeps you a starting quarterback within the league. And he's performed well the first couple weeks, slinging it. I think with Christian Watson back, it's going to be really special. And that kind of performance, again, just spectacular, fantastic to see. Jordan Love has it. Another quarterback that has it, and his wide receiver, is CJ Stroud. Plain and simple, the CJ Stroud and Tank Dell stack for Superflex leagues is a league winner. Those people who got CJ Stroud as the third quarterback taken in Superflex drafts are thrilled. Those people who took the end of the draft chances on Tank Dell are thrilled. Tank Dell, so far this season, 15 receptions, 251 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He almost had a third touchdown as well. Yesterday, he was tackled on the 1-yard line on a 48-yard reception. He looked fantastic. He has continued to look fantastic all season, looked fantastic in the preseason. Tank Dell is legit, and so is CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud currently has more pass attempts, the most pass attempts in the entire league right now without an interception. He's thrown the ball 121 times and has not turned it over. He has more passing yards than Patrick Mahomes. He has more passing yards than Josh Allen. And again, no interceptions. And he also has more touchdowns than Trevor Lawrence and Dak Prescott. CJ Stroud is off to a fantastic start. And again, it's just the beginning. And this is where I'm really going to pat myself on the back, because no one, and I mean no one, was in the Texans as much as I was. I was so high on the Texans this offseason. You guys know it. You know it. I was telling you to get Stroud. I was telling you to get any Texans piece because I loved everything about them. The defense is scrappy. They're performing well without Jalen Petrie, their star. Derek Stingley just went on IR, and they still held the Jaguars to basically nothing. You have a great head coach who is changing the culture in DeMeco Ryans. And the offensive coordinator is from the Shanahan coaching tree. Everything you need for a team to succeed was there in Houston. I've been saying it all along, and we're seeing it now, already 3 weeks in, just how good they can be. Spectacular performance from the Texans to pull out that win, and I am just excited for that future, excited for that team. My next overreaction is that Travis Etienne has truly arrived. Last year, he was not really utilized in the receiving department, and this year, he's not only used in that, he's basically a total bell cow. So far this year, he already has 205 rush yards and a touchdown, and has 79 receiving yards through 3 games. Pretty good, looking fantastic, attached to a good offense of the Jaguars who have kind of stumbled the past couple weeks. I expect them to get right, and I expect Travis Etienne to be a big part of that. If you can buy him, I'm doing it because I do think by the end of the year, he will be a top 5 dynasty running back. And speaking of players that you need to buy, Jaylen Waddle needs to be purchased. This is a buy window right now for Jaylen Waddle. He has not started off well. He's not being utilized a ton. And everyone in this Dolphins offense, except for Jaylen Waddle, is excelling, which means it's time to buy. Jaylen Waddle will simply have some games and will finish as a top at least 30 wide receiver in fantasy, probably top 24. Just get him. Just get him while you can. He missed a week, so the owner is probably a little bit salty about it anyway. And seeing Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert do so much, and Tyreek Hill continue to be one of the best wide receivers in the league, the Jaylen Waddle managers are definitely panicking. Buy window is here for Jaylen Waddle. Marvin Mims is the Broncos wide receiver 1. Why? So far, on only 7 receptions, has 192 yards. He is leading all Broncos receivers in receiving yards, despite 10 less receptions than Courtland Sutton. He's also not seeing that high of a snap share. So to see him perform this well, basically be the only light in this Broncos offense this early into his career is stunning. Marvin Mims, Broncos wide receiver 1. Get him now if he's still available in your leagues, because these types of performances are going to continue. Next overreaction is that Ryan Tannehill is done and that Will Levis will be starting soon. Ryan Tannehill so far only has 548 passing yards through 3 games, only has 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. That's right, an interception a game so far for Ryan Tannehill, 548 passing yards, so not even 200 passing yards a game so far, and it hasn't even been against the best of opponents. So Ryan Tannehill, he's basically dust. He's lost too much, and he already wasn't the best. So seeing him lose a step here, losing his arm, it's not good. He will be benched sooner or later. Look for Will Levis to be started. And what I need to scratch my head about is Derick Henry, who right now is on load management. He did pop up on the injury report last week, so hopefully it is just that. He only had 11 carries for 20 yards, and he's continuously being outsnapped by Tyjae Spears. It's not a good sign. The cliff might be here for Derick Henry. Not totally pressing the button yet, but it is the overreactions episode. So I think the cliff is near for Derick Henry. And I hate to say it because he did look good the first 2 weeks. He looked decent. So hopefully this was just a bad game. They were down the whole game. Ryan Tannehill was turning it over a ton. So it's possible that this was just one of those games. But still, just see him only get 11 carries for 20 yards. That's probably his worst game in his career. Not good to see for Derick Henry. And yes, the Browns offense played okay. They did all right against Tennessee, but this is the offense to avoid. If you have any Cleveland Browns on your team, sell them. Sell them. Get out from under it. Amari Cooper had a really good game. Jerome Ford had a really good game, but the yardage isn't there and the usage isn't there for any of these guys. And it's just too concerning for me. I think you could get a decent return for any of them. Deshaun Watson looks to have bounced back a tiny bit. He didn't look awful against Tennessee. That is a tough defense, so it was encouraging to see. But Elijah Moore didn't even crack 60 yards off of 9 receptions, I believe it was. And Amari Cooper was the leader with over 100 yards. But even Jerome Ford wasn't seeing that much usage. Luckily, he got the touchdowns. Kareem Hunt was getting carries. All sorts of people were getting carries, really, in this Browns offense. So I'm just avoiding it completely, selling any Brown I own. James Cook is a monster and also getting close to that league winner territory. He was a fantastic value in drafts this offseason and is on pace for nearly 2,000 all-purpose yards. Right now, he has 267 rush yards and 67 receiving yards, on pace for over 1,500 rush yards and over 300 receiving yards. Looking to be a true steal and also looking to be a decent heartbeat for this Bills offense. Outside of Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, it's James Cook. He's getting a ton of usage and he's looking good with it. Try to buy him now. He still hasn't scored a touchdown. So when that happens, it's going to be a 30-pointer and it's going to be a fantastic game. And I doubt you're going to be able to buy him. Is the price a little high right now? Yes. But go ahead and try to buy James Cook. He's a true beast. Another overreaction here is that Sam Howell will get benched by the end of the year. It's going to happen. They'll turn to Jacoby Brissett if they have to do it. But unfortunately for him, the youngster got absolutely exposed against the Buffalo Bills. And I'm worried that there's going to be something in the film there that defenses will continue to try to do. He finishes the day 19-29, 170 yards, no touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. 4 interceptions. Not a good day for Sam Howell at all. And so I do think that if he continues to play like that, he will get benched. And I honestly fear that he will continue to play like that, at least more turnovers than touchdowns going forward. And another Commanders takeaway here is that Brian Robinson is, like Romeo Doubs, simply just good at football. Right now, he has 216 rush yards and 49 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Looking really good. He's on pace right now for 1,200 rushing yards and almost 300 receiving yards. The receiving yards is the big surprise here. Nobody would have predicted Brian Robinson to have so many receiving yards already. And it's just good to see. He is a bell cow on this team, loved by the coaching staff, and simply good at football. He finished yesterday with 10 carries for 70 yards. That's a fantastic yards per carry. One of the only guys on this offense to actually look good against the Bills yesterday. He's simply good at football. It is what it is. This is a fun. Zach Moss yesterday had a great game, but my takeaway is that the Trey Sermon game will happen this year. It's gonna happen. He gets activated to the active roster before the game, and he averages 3.4 yards per carry yesterday. Zach Moss in his career has never played a season more than 13 games. He's never played more than 13 games in a season. He's going to miss some time again this year, and Trey Sermon will be asked to step up, and I guarantee here on this episode that he'll perform well. Go look at his college football playoff stats in his senior season and the games before that. He's the type of running back to get hot randomly, and he's going to do it this year. And another Colt that is starting to look like a value, and this is a sneaky value, guys, so listen closely. Go send out some offers for Josh Downs, especially if you're an Anthony Richardson manager. It's looking like Josh Downs is a value. Yesterday, he saw 12 targets. Is that a Gardner Minshew thing? Yes, Gardner Minshew loves to hit those types of receivers, but still, to see a guy get 8 receptions off of 12 targets, that's pretty damn good. And luckily for people who would like to buy him, he only had 57 yards. So tons of usage and not great production. That means it's a buying window. And so far in all 3 weeks, he's seen above a 75% snap share. That's pretty damn good. So I'm looking into Josh Downs. Alec Pierce, while the athleticism is there, has not done a damn thing. So he's not looking like a value at all, Alec Pierce, and in fact, looking like he's going to eventually hit the wayside unless something happens. But Josh Downs, looking like the slot receiver for this team and going to get utilized as the season goes on. I love the rookie-to-rookie connection. We're seeing it with Tank Dell and CJ Stroud. We were starting to see it with Jonathan Mingo and Bryce Young, and I think we could begin to see it with Josh Downs and Anthony Richardson. So go ahead and get him. And Melvin Gordon looked okay yesterday. If Gus Edwards looks to miss some time, I think you might be able to get away with starting Melvin Gordon. He had 2 receptions for 23 yards and 10 carries for 32 yards. I think if he gets a true bell cow game, he'll finish the day with like 60 yards and a touchdown, and that's fine. He didn't look too dusty. It was kind of cool to see him out there. He's definitely put on some weight and a different running style now, but still had a little bit of burst, got a couple first downs, looked okay. So Melvin Gordon might be worth a stab on your waiver wire tomorrow, but just don't spend too much on him, of course. Maybe like throw a buck his way and see if you can pick him up. This is a tough one to say, and Zach Wilson's not dead yet. He's not dead yet. Now, he's looked terrible. He really has, but he's played the Cowboys, and he just played the Patriots, who always have the Jets number, especially Zach Wilson's number. And to finish the day, 18 of 36 for 157 yards and no interceptions is a win. It's a win, plain and simple. Zach Wilson doing not bad against the Patriots is a win. So I'm keeping a close eye on him, and I'm saying he's not dead yet. His next 3 games will be the true test, and I think he has those 3 games to check himself. He has the Chiefs next week, he has the Broncos the week after that, and then the Eagles. If he can score a touchdown in all of those games and not throw an interception, they will ride with him the rest of the season. This is his testing point because after those 3 games is the bye week, and that is when the Jets will truly evaluate. He has the next 3 games. And I'm not going to write him off completely because of bad performance against the Cowboys and then a subpar performance against the Patriots. He's not dead yet. Will he probably be dead? Yes. But I'm going to be a little hot here and just hope, right? I mean, he had Aaron Rodgers this offseason, and the coaching staff and the players are truly behind him. He's not dead yet. He's not dead yet. Our next takeaway here is similar to the Alexander Mattison takeaway, and that is that this will go down as Ezekiel Elliott's best game of the season. After only having 12 carries for 42 yards in the first 2 games this season, he finishes the day with 16 carries, 480 yards. Really not that bad of a performance, but I don't see him getting that many carries again, and certainly not that many yards again, unless it's like one breakaway run. Can he maybe have more fantasy points in another game at some point this season? Sure. But I would look to sell Ezekiel Elliott now if you can. Use this as a launching point. Be like, hey, he just got 16 carries. That's pretty good. He'll probably continue to get that trade partner. Go ahead and give me a third or a second for Ezekiel Elliott and just move on from him. I don't think that he's going to have big performances like this anymore this season. A player that will continue to have big performances, though, is Adam Thielen. He now has back-to-back 20-point games, and as long as he can stay healthy, he'll continue. Yesterday, he finished the day 11 of 14 for 145 yards and a touchdown, looking to be the leader in the doghouse for Carolina, and I don't see that changing. One good thing about Bryce Young missing this game with a minor injury is that he got to sit back, relax, and watch the show. And now he has seen Adam Thielen look fantastic with Andy Dalton, looked pretty good in the game with him last week. And I think Adam Thielen will have finally earned the trust of Bryce Young and continue to have performances like that for the rest of the season. I definitely think that Adam Thielen will average at least 10 targets a game from here on out, genuinely. So go buy Adam Thielen on the low in your redraft leagues. Somebody asks, is Jonathan Mingo's dynasty value dead? The answer is no. I think he had 5 targets before going down with the concussion. He had 8 targets last week. So I do think that Jonathan Mingo is still fine and perhaps a buy opportunity, because my next takeaway here is that Bryce Young will be back and he will be good. And this quarterback class will go down as historic. CJ Stroud will hit, Bryce Young will hit, and Anthony Richardson will hit. I think that Bryce Young will be able to use this time in a correct way. He's got a great head on his shoulders, and I think he's going to bounce back fine. I think he's going to learn a lot from this game and maybe next game being out and be able to bounce back and be good. He looked decent in the week before he went down with his ankle injury, and so I think that he will be fine. And I think that you can say the rest for any of the Panthers, really. I do think that they're going to be good for fantasy. I really do. And so go buy Bryce Young while you can. I think this is a buy window for Bryce Young. And unfortunately, Jackson Smith-Njigba might not be happening this year. So far, he only has 9 receptions for 57 yards, no touchdowns, not getting a ton of snaps, not getting a ton of usage. I'm not too excited right now. I'm not too thrilled. Jackson Smith-Njigba was my number one rookie wide receiver. And he's just not doing it. And maybe it's going to take an injury, but I was really hoping it wouldn't take an injury. I'm not panicking yet, but he's certainly not startable until he proves something. And he honestly might not prove something because DK Metcalf is the type of player to play through an injury. We just saw him get 100 yards with a rib injury. And Tyler Lockett is pretty sneaky. So it's not happening with Jackson Smith-Njigba, unfortunately. And it sucks because we're seeing Marvin Mims. We're seeing Michael Wilson. We're seeing Jordan Addison. We're seeing Zay Flowers. We're seeing Josh Downs. We're seeing Tank Dell. We just talked about Jonathan Mingo. All of these guys arguably have had a better season so far than Jackson Smith-Njigba. It's tough to say. Tough to watch. Overreaction number 28 is that the Bears need to tear it down, and I'm still not blaming Justin Fields. I am convinced that this Bears team would play better without a coach. I genuinely think if they went out there with absolutely no game plan against the Chiefs yesterday, they would have scored more points. I think backyard football would do better than whatever the hell this Bears coaching staff is trying to do right now. Tear it down and let Justin Fields play some damn football. Another wide receiver that is not happening. It's Sky Moore. I'm calling it now. It is just not happening. 7 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown so far. I do think he's fine. I think he'll have a decent enough floor. But unfortunately for him, I really don't see that ceiling being there. And also, unfortunately for us as fantasy managers, if that ceiling is there, it will not happen in our starting lineup. So I'm looking to sell Sky Moore, and I really just don't think it's happening. One thing to add to that is that the Chiefs' draft position year in, year out is the perfect spot to get themselves a really good wide receiver. And so even if Travis Kelce goes down, Kadarius Toney will get some usage. Richie James will get some usage. Sky Moore will get some usage. Rashee Rice will get some usage. Justin Watson will get some usage. Marcus Valles-Scantling will get some usage. Justin Ross will get some usage. The list goes on and on and on. And I didn't even name the running backs who are catching passes. So Sky Moore just simply isn't happening. Sell him now. I don't see much ceiling happening here. And I do expect the Chiefs to continue to attack wide receiver in the draft for the rest of their existence, really. So sorry, Sky Moore. I think he's fine, but I just don't see the ceiling. Is Taylor Swift dating Travis Kelce just a marketing tactic? Did somebody go from the Kansas City Chiefs marketing team? Did somebody go up to Travis Kelce and tell him to date Taylor Swift? Did maybe his podcast marketer tell him to do that? Because I don't see the match. It's a weird couple. I kind of like it. It's kind of silly. It's interesting. But it's got to be a marketing ploy, right? It is so bizarre to see this. It is just so weird. And I've got to say, it's genius. It is genius because not only are Chiefs fans going to these games now, Taylor Swifties will be going to these games. Anywhere the Chiefs are going now, Taylor Swift will be at, and she will be selling tickets. There will be Swifties at NFL games from now on, I guarantee it. And I really feel like it had to be a marketing tactic. It had to be. Either that or Taylor Swift is just tired of dating the boys she dated because this is just a complete switch from everyone she's been dating before. It is just so weird. So weird. Look for some tickets to continue to be moved in Kansas City and wherever the hell they're playing because it is moving some tickets for sure. I have 4 more takeaways for you, and this next one is that any damn Sunday, any given Sunday, This is why we play the game. The Arizona Cardinals beat the Cowboys. The first 2 weeks of the season, there was not a better team in the league than the Cowboys. They had looked fantastic. They were killing it. But then they lose to the Cardinals. What? Josh Dobbs finishes the day 17 of 21, 189 yards, and a touchdown with no turnovers. Dak Prescott throws an interception. The Cardinals looked good. And guess who was leading the way in receiving? It was Michael Wilson with 86 yards. So go pick him up. He's definitely worth rostering because if Kyler Murray comes back, this Cardinals team is going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I've got to say, Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, both of them, very good hires. I was scratching my head a little bit, but both of them have looked fantastic so far, and both of them are excelling in the field that they were coordinators for the Eagles. So looking good, really, really looking good. And I've also got to say, why didn't we see this coming? Because Jonathan Gannon, Eagles defensive coordinator, knows how to beat the damn Cowboys, and he just did it with the Cardinals. I feel like we should have seen it coming, but we did it. It is what it is, but any given Sunday, that's why we play the game. And I would like to see maybe the Cardinals trade Kyler Murray, just ride with Josh Dobbs, see what happens. They're not going to win many more games this season, right? I mean, sure, they beat the Cowboys. Sure, they looked good, but I doubt they win many more football games. So I would almost like to just see them roll with Josh Dobbs, trade Kyler Murray, and just have fun this season. Why not? But we'll see what happens. And finally, it's time to talk about Sunday Night Football. Najee Harris isn't dead yet. I wanted to say that he is dead. I did. I was ready. I was watching this game, and with everything coming out beforehand, with Jaylen Warren expected to get more carries and everything, this was the big test for Najee Harris. If he continued to basically see a 50-50 split with Jaylen Warren, it was over. But he didn't. He finished the day with 19 carries for 65 yards, which is truly okay. And Jaylen Warren only had 8 carries. They both averaged about the same yards per carry. They both looked similarly explosive. And I will say this about Najee Harris. He had a pretty good breakaway run. It was like 20-something yards. He had to go to the sideline after that because he got banged up, but he did not want to. He pleaded to go back out there onto the field. I think Najee Harris is just warming up. So I might be buying Najee Harris. I might be selling. It all ultimately comes down to the price, but I am comfortable saying right now that Najee Harris isn't dead yet. And Calvin Austin, he's been unlocked. He had 2 receptions for 72 yards and a touchdown last night, and he already has 16 targets this season, looking good. He's an explosive punt returner, so a guy that can contribute on special teams, as well as a guy with 95th percentile 40-yard dash, burst, and agility scores. Great profile for him. Seemingly officially unlocked and looking to be a consistent part of this offense. And I think this Steelers offense in general is going to start clicking. I really do. I think they will. They've got Deontay Johnson will return at some point. Pat Freiermuth finally scored a touchdown. George Pickens is looking legit. Like I just said, Najee Harris isn't dead yet, and Calvin Austin's been unlocked. It's a pretty decent offense. Davante Adams is still Davante Adams, plain and simple. He was way too cheap to go to this offseason. Way too cheap. He's still a wide receiver 1. And still has overall wide receiver 1 outcome in his range over whatever. You know what I mean. He could still be wide receiver 1 overall. He finishes the day 13 receptions, 172 yards, and a touchdown, continuously demanding targets. Already has 322 yards and 3 touchdowns this season. Looking fantastic. Looking like Davante Adams. I mean, hey, if he's on the block, go get him. I'm not selling him. I'm riding the Davante Adams until the wheels fall off. He's in the same category at this point as Travis Kelce. He's just insanely good at football. My last takeaway here is that Hunter Renfrow needs to be traded. Plain and simple. If you're not going to give this guy the ball, why even have him out there? He's running routes well. I'm watching these games. He's getting open. He's just not being utilized. He only has 3 receptions for 40 yards so far. Jacoby Myers is beating that in a game, right? So he just needs to be traded. They just need to move on because it is just a waste of a roster space. They didn't even use Hunter Renfrow when Jacoby Myers was out with the concussion last week. It's over for Hunter Renfrow on the Raiders. I don't know what it is. It made too much sense for him to be good with Josh McDaniels' history with slot receivers. So I don't know what happened, but Hunter Renfrow needs to be traded. He's lost trust in this coaching staff, on the team, and fantasy managers alike. He needs a fresh start. It's over for Hunter Renfrow. All right, guys. Those are my overreactions and takeaways from the day. That was a fun one. Let's see. Do you guys have any questions? I see 22 comments here in the chat. Give up on Mechie? No. Who are we starting Achane over now at PPR? I mean, most people, right? You've got to keep starting Devon Achane. You can't bench him anymore. You just can't. Is Kadarius Toney droppable in Dynasty? It is getting there, but since Dynasty, probably not. In redraft, yes. Shallower leagues, yes. Do I start A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, or Devontae Smith? I would say you've probably got to start both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and sit Mike Evans. That's a very, very tough call, but he is going to have Darius Slay on him. He's going to have the toughest matchup out of the three, so you've just got to go there. Is DJ Moore dead on the Instagram chat? No, DJ Moore scored a touchdown and had 40 yards and had 100 yards last week. DJ Moore is still alive for sure. I have Ramondre Stevenson and Marquise Brown, and you were offered Derick Henry for the 2. I would keep Ramondre Stevenson and Marquise Brown. Let's see. Panthers are doing their part to make the Bears better. That's true. If you want to sell high, I have Laporta and Kelce. I guess, Adam, I would put both on the block, to be honest. If you have them both and you want to trade both, then I would put both on the block and go with the one that you get the best return for. Plain and simple. I think that both of these guys are going to be able to be startable week in, week out. Of course, Travis Kelce is the one you want the most. But if you're, looking at a younger team, you want to be able to compete the most and continue to compete, then you could probably be okay with Sam Laporta and try to sell high on Travis Kelce. But I think either way works. And finally, I had Josh Allen and Tua, I have Josh Allen, and you traded Tua for Christian Watson. Was that a good trade? If it's a single quarterback, maybe, but I don't know, man. It's looking rough. Tua's looking really, really good, and this Dolphins offense in particular is looking really, really good. If Christian Watson hits and this is a single trade, then yes. If it's a single quarterback trade and Christian Watson hits, you have won it, but that's an if, and that's kind of a big problem with trading. You can't do too many ifs in your trades, especially with how well Tua has looked. And I guess finally, I'll answer this question. It just came in. Addison and Jaylen Warren for Kenneth Walker, instant smash. No. Keep Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's a dog. He's fantastic. One of the best running backs in the league. Keep Kenneth Walker. All right, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. on this YouTube for a little bit of a waivers discussion and some other fun stuff. Again, thank you for tuning in. You guys are always awesome. I love spending my mornings with you guys. I hope to see you all tomorrow, and I hope you have a magnificent Monday and a wonderful rest of your week. Have a good one. Peace.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.